This video supported in part by...
It's just a VR YouTube channel.
Rolling Thunder is a classic run-and-gun arcade adventure shooter that hit the North American arcades back around 1986. That would have made me a junior in high school, by which time I had generally outgrown video games and outgrown arcades in particular. Gotcha, just kidding. I still haven't outgrown that stuff. That's absolute baloney. In fact, when I first got my driver's license around 1986, one of the first places I drove myself was down to the mall to visit the local arcade. And when I was there in that era, Rolling Thunder was one of my favorites. I love the fact that it evolved so much into this adventure game that had a story progression and moved through these different levels and different enemies, unlike those single screen games from back in the early 80s. So I was very happy to see that My Arcade released Rolling Thunder in their line of My Arcade micro players. Now this actually came out a couple of years ago, and I intend to review all of these, but ultimately my production schedule gets stacked and stacked and stacked, and not for the best, but actually releases of these mini arcades have really slowed over the last year and a half, and so I'm able to catch up on many of these things. But not just for me. You know I love reading comments that viewers just like you leave in the comment section of previous videos. In fact, that's where I get ideas for many of my videos, is from comments that you guys leave. GenXGrownUp has a young superfan viewer named Jaden, who wrote in to say, "John, would you please do a review of the My Arcade Rolling Thunder?" I can think of no better thing to do at this very minute, so Jaden, this one is for you.
Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown up.
Let's get rolling with this Rolling Thunder then. Just from the packaging, you can see that this was from midway through the release cycle of My Arcade's micro players. Packaging is just what you'd come to expect. A little bit of game art on the side, but most of it is this translucent screen that lets you see into what the game looks like, which frankly, that's the big selling point, is how nice the industrial design of these little cabinets. Over on this side, they have game history printed per the norm, which I always like, but you might want to pause and read this whole thing, because no matter how much you played Rolling Thunder back in the day, you might not know that your secret agent's code name is Albatross. Nothing particularly notable here on the back, just a feature list in 5 different languages, so yeah, let's get this thing cracked open. So of course inside we have the player itself, then we have some instructions, get out of my face with instructions, and we have this flyer. Now normally I wouldn't take a look at this flyer because it's very outdated, but being outdated is actually exactly why I want to look at this. This kind of puts this in context. Rolling Thunder was the latest release at the time of printing, with more coming soon and not even a mention of that premium edition line that came along later. Before we get into gameplay, I want to do a really quick tour of the device itself. Now, of course, I love the chunky design of these My Arcade micro players. They're much beefier, they look great on a shelf, they really represent the machines that they are designed to emulate. Taking a look at the side artwork, I think it would be fair to say that this artwork is somewhat stark and minimalist, but it's actually quite accurate to the original arcade machine. All it had was this pitch black feel with a couple of geometric circles and a picture of your secret agent here pointing a gun in your face. So, though it's not super amazing and interesting, it's quite accurate and what you would expect to see on the original cab. Around the back, we have the typical headphone jack and the volume up and down buttons. The main speaker is right here on the back behind this little grill. Down at the bottom, you have power options. You could either power it with a micro USB 5-volt in, or you have the battery box right here. And looks like, yeah, it does not come with batteries. Oh, let's do the battery magic trick. Back around front here and starting on the knee board, we have the coin insert door that doubles as the power on-off switch. Nothing interesting going on up here around the screen bezel, it's just pitch black, and then you have the marquee, which is just a decal, not illuminated. And as for the control deck, it's exactly what we've come to expect from My Arcade. You have the D-pad here that has a screw-on, screw-off bat top joystick. If you like to leave it on, I leave it on, looks more like an arcade machine. 2 buttons, that's all you need, jump and shoot, and a reset and start button up top. And if this fake placeholder Rolling Thunder gameplay sticker is to be believed, I think we're about to see the NES version of Rolling Thunder, but let's find out. Yep, that looks pretty NES-ish to me. Well, let's give it a start and see how it does. Yep, that makes sense. The NES used a password system for continue, so you could continue later in the game. So, alright, let's get into a new game. Jump, and there's a fire. You know, here's an early tiny nitpick. I wish the buttons were reversed. I'm accustomed to shoot being on the left and jump being on the right, but I'm sure I'll get used to that in short order and it won't make any difference to me. The NES version was actually quite faithful to the gameplay of the original. It was lacking, you know, colors and that kind of thing, but there's the music. They do their best with the NES sound chip. Rolling Thunder music was the stereo kind of symphonic spy music, which was kind of great. Let's get some bullets. Ah! Ouch. Guys coming from all directions, popping out of doors. Yeah, all the stuff you'd expect in Rolling Thunder. Time for machine gun. All right. Take that. Yeah, that's an equalizer right there. Oh, let's head down to the basement. You know, any criticisms I have here have nothing to do with Rolling Thunder or this unit, actually, which is behaving admirably. It's just the limitations of the NES as it relates to how faithful you can be to Rolling Thunder. But despite criticisms about the NES limitations in terms of, you know, audio and sprite size and color depth and everything, to have a full adventure game on a micro player like this, instead of just a static screen, you know, a Pac-Man or a Galaga, nothing wrong with those games. But I think as an adventure, there's more in here. It's closer to a Zelda than a Pac-Man, if you will. There's a lot more going on in Rolling Thunder than there is in one of those static screen arcade games. Because this came out much later in the arcade era, as we'd said. Yep, we're on to story 2. Ah, trying to get grenades on me. Nice try, buddy. Yeah, that's sneaky. Pretty sneaky, sis. Alright. Yep, here's the big climb. Should have some bad guys over here. Yep, there they are shooting at me. This jump. Made it. Nice. Yeah, so there's all kinds of Rolling Thunder fun to be had with this little unit. It's really nice to see these later arcade games coming out in these units. Alright, that's Rolling Thunder. Not bad, my arcade.
I'm actually quite happy with this little Rolling Thunder from my arcade. Look, we've been over this again and again. Would I rather have the original arcade ROM in a unit this size? Obviously I would. I mean, look at this side by side. The original versus this NES version, they're very, very similar, but there's enough nuance there with limitations in terms of colors and audio voices and animation that you just can't get on the NES that was in the original Rolling Thunder. But the NES version captures much of the same feel of that original game. The controls are fine, nothing to write home about, but they're exactly what we've come to expect from these micro players from my arcade. They get the job done. I did mention I didn't care for the reverse of the jump and shoot buttons, and look, that's something that is wrong for no particular reason, but I could fix it if I wanted to with a screwdriver. I could flip those two buttons and make them just the way I want it. I shouldn't have to, but I could if I wanted to. One other thing I should mention in regards to the controls as it relates to this NES version is that start button will actually pause your game. Well, that's a benefit you wouldn't have had with the arcade, so maybe that's a point in the favor of the NES version. Not unlike the release of Bad Dudes before it, Rolling Thunder packs a lot more game into this little cabinet than you would get from those early 80-81 era arcade games that most of the My Arcade units are packing in there. There's more to see the longer you play, the screens change, there's a story progression, you can upgrade your gun. All that cool stuff means you have more to do in this game than just running through the same maze over and over or shooting the same aliens over and over. All of that taken into account, I'm quite fond of this Rolling Thunder. I think I'm gonna give it 3 3/4 tokens out of 5. Great controls, decent design, decent gameplay, and it's still very affordable and easy to find. I'll throw a link down in the description of this video where you can click and buy it right now on Amazon to add to your collection. So Jaden, buddy, I sure hope you enjoyed this review, and everyone else, I hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, you made it to the end. If you liked this video, the best way to say thanks is to watch one more. Here are a couple suggestions that you just might enjoy. And if you love our content, maybe consider becoming a Patreon supporter by following the link on screen.
Unacceptable for grown-ups. Your dinner cannot just be french fries.